Good evening. My name is Taj Reeves. I recently graduated from the University of Missouri with thank you, with degrees in journalism and political science. Like many of you, I am interested in public interest work, and so it is with great honor that I introduce a woman that provides both inspiration and hope for a life in public service through many roles as a public servant and global ambassador. Will Donna Shalala please join me at the podium? Donna Shalala has more than 30 years of experience as a scholar, teacher, activist, and administrator. She is the president of the University of Miami and the director of Mednax, a national healthcare delivery group. Shalala's extensive history in civil service is impressive. She served in Iran as one of the country's first Peace Corps volunteers from 1962 to 1964 and was Assistant Secretary for Policy Development and Research at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development during the Carter administration. In 1993, President Bill Clinton appointed her U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, and for 8 years, she oversaw a wide variety of programs, including Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Head Start, welfare, the Public Health Service, the National Institute of Health, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the Food and Drug Administration. In 2007, President George W. Bush picked Shalala to co-chair the President's Commission on Care for America's Returning Wounded Warriors. And in 2009, Shalala was appointed chair of the Committee on the Future of Nursing at the Institute of Medicine of the National Academy of Sciences. During Shalala's tenure at her current institution, the University of Miami has solidified its position among top U.S. research institutions. She has also held tenured professorships at Columbia University, the City University of New York, and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She served as the City University of New York Hunter College president from 1980 to 1987, and as University of Wisconsin-Madison chancellor from 1987 to 1993. In 2008, President Bush presented her with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian award, and she received the 2010 Nelson Mandela Award for Health and Human Rights, which recognizes individuals for outstanding dedication to improving the health and life chances of disadvantaged populations in South Africa and internationally. Donna Shalala, your work in public service, both at home and abroad, inspires not only me, but the many women that sit before you. As a future legal professional and public servant, it gives me great honor to present this award and much hope for the future of women in public service. It is with admiration that the National Conference for College Women Student Leaders, organizers, and attendees, including myself, honor and recognize you as a 2013 Woman of Distinction.
Thank you very much, Taj. What a nice job you did. Let's give Taj a big hand. Thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be here. I want to thank both organizations, but particularly AAUW. Very early in my career, I received AAUW's Young Scholar Award, and it helped to propel my academic career at that time, and I've always been grateful to AAUW for the role that they played at the beginning of my career. A couple of words of advice, but following Barbara is almost impossible. Whatever you decide to do in life, make sure you do your best. There's no substitute for hard work. You don't get a long resume like mine without an enormous amount of hard work. Number two, acquire new skills. One of the mistakes that women make in their careers is they stay in jobs too long. Often they're locked in because of family reasons, so they can't move. But when I go out to hire someone, I look to see whether people have moved and acquired new skills as part of a career. Number 3, be persistent. I've spent my whole career overreaching until I became president of the University of Miami. In every single job I had from the beginning of my career, the consensus was I wasn't qualified. Now listen to that. And that is every single job that I've ever had, including Bill Clinton appointing me to a cabinet post. The consensus was I wasn't qualified. That meant that I had to prove that I was qualified in each of those positions. 4th, network. Network, network, network. People are always asking me, how do you get to be a cabinet officer? It's really quite simple. Look around the room, figure out which one of your friends here is going to run for president, and keep in touch for 30 years. Now listen to what I just said. Networking is absolutely key. People that I met at conferences as an undergraduate and as a recent graduate are people that I kept friendships with for years and years. I had known the Clintons since we were all in graduate school. And we kept in touch all of those years, as I did with a whole generation of friends. And when we got to positions of power, and when we were moving up, we pulled each other in. We remembered those relationships. I tell my staff now, never have lunch at your desk. If you run into someone, say, let's meet for lunch. That doesn't mean you have to buy lunch. It means that you can take your lunch and have a brown bag someplace. This networking opportunity of this conference is extraordinarily important for your future career. You don't know that now, but you'll know it in the future because you will meet people here, if you keep in touch over the years, that will not simply help your careers, but be a support system wherever you land on this earth. Number 5, and Barbara gave this message very clearly, learn to listen. That's the most difficult thing for leaders, is to learn to listen. We learn how to talk, but we rarely learn to listen. And listening will make a difference. My best experience of learning to listen was as a Peace Corps volunteer. I was barely 21. I was stationed in a mud village in southern Iran, and one of our assignments, the other volunteers and I, were to build schools. So my family's Lebanese. My grandmother had given me a letter to the head of the village. It basically said, this is to introduce Donna Shalala, the daughter of a great sheikh from Cleveland, Ohio. Put her under your protection. So the sheikh, the mullah and I had developed a relationship, so I went to him early on and I said, wouldn't it be wonderful if the young people in our community had a school? And he said, yeah, we really don't need a school, we need a mosque. And I went back to the Peace Corps volunteers and said, you know, I struck out. He wants us to build a mosque. And we got into a long debate over 5 months about whether American government employees could build a religious organization. And this went on for months. And finally, we decided, if they want a mosque, we'll build a mosque. And so the Peace Corps volunteers I was stationed with developed a new kind of mud brick, and we built a mosque. The day the mosque was dedicated, the mullah turned to me and said, you know, this community needs a school. Now, the lesson of that could be honor your God first, or the lesson could be a broader lesson, and that is learn to listen to what your constituency, to what your community needs, and act on that first. And all throughout my career, I've learned to listen to what other people's priorities were. When I went to Hunter College in New York, I was a new college president. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, by the way. And so I asked what people's priorities were in a systematic way. We did a survey. I asked the students, the faculty, and the staff, what were their priorities? It turned out their priorities were things I would have never predicted. They wanted the buildings to be safe and clean. I delivered. And by delivering that, all of the other things that we were able to do, it was relatively easy to build a consensus because I established trust by listening to what people had to say. Learn to lead. When you start your career, young people forget that they should still belong to organizations. Too many young professionals just work and don't find an organization that they can volunteer for. They spend their entire college careers volunteering and organizing, and they get to their first professional job and they forget about that. And all of you need to get involved in some organization. As part of a balanced life, you can be a world-class professional, but you also have to give back to your communities. That's what you did as a college student. That's what you must continue to do as a young professional. And finally, figure out a way to cultivate a sense of humor. I have gotten through some of the most difficult situations in American politics, in life, because I had a good sense of humor. A sense of humor, being able to introduce lightness into a situation will make all the difference in the world, not only how people perceive you. Having a sense of humor doesn't mean that you don't take yourself or others seriously, but just that you understand that life is running into brick walls and turning around and going in other directions, but also being able to laugh at the same time. I wish you all the best of everything. Good luck and best wishes.